When you start 2026 like this, something invisible begins to reorganize itself around you before you even notice. It's not a snap, not a clear sign, not a defining event. It's a quiet adjustment that happens the moment you decide not to repeat, internally, the same pattern that brought you here. Most people enter a new year carrying the past as if it were their identity. They say they want something new, but they think the same way, feel the same way, react the same way. And the universe, which doesn't understand words, only states responds by offering more of the same, not as punishment, but as a mirror. There's a deep difference between wanting change and sustaining change. Wanting is easy. Sustaining requires awareness. At the beginning of 2026, while the world is still distracted by empty promises, there's a short window in which your mind is more open, more sensitive, less defensive. It's in that space that quiet decisions shape the rest of the year. Not the decisions spoken out loud, but the ones you commit to when no one is watching, when there's no applause, when there's no guarantee of results. The universe cooperates when it senses coherence. It doesn't move through neediness, urgency, or desperation. It aligns when what you think, feel, and do start pointing in the same direction. And that can be uncomfortable, because it means you can no longer blame time, people, or circumstances. It means accepting that, up until now, you may have been asking for things you weren't willing to sustain internally. At first, this alignment feels empty. You decide differently, but nothing changes on the outside. You adjust your inner posture, but the world looks the same. This is where almost everyone fails because they read silence as rejection. But silence is observation. The universe is watching to see if you'll hold your decision without external confirmation. Watching to see if you'll slip back into old emotional habits the moment discomfort shows up. Watching whether your faith is conditional or steady. When you start 2026 this way, aware of this invisible test, you stop begging for signs and start becoming the sign. You understand that delay isn't delay, it's refinement. That a lack of response isn't abandonment, it's alignment under construction. And that changes everything, because it pulls you out of anxious expectation and places you in grounded presence. Most people live reacting to the world, reacting to news, to people, to problems. Those who start the year aligned act before they react. Not by trying to control everything, but by choosing how to position themselves internally. And that choice is felt, not explained, not announced, felt. People begin to treat you differently. Opportunities show up in unexpected ways. Paths that once seemed closed start revealing small openings. None of this is magic. It's coherence. It's the natural result of someone who stopped sending mixed signals to their own life. When you say you want prosperity but live in a constant sense of lack, the universe responds to lack. When you say you want peace but feed inner conflict every day, the universe responds to conflict. It always responds to the dominant frequency, not the occasional intention. Starting 2026 this way requires something rare. Active patience, not passivity, steadiness without anxiety. It's continuing to do what needs to be done even after the initial excitement fades. It's refusing to negotiate your new inner standards just because the world hasn't reorganized yet. And that's uncomfortable because it challenges the ego, the need for validation, the desire for control. But that's exactly where real change happens. When you sustain your new inner state long enough, the universe stops meeting resistance not because it was convinced, but because there's no longer conflict. It's like rowing against the current and suddenly realizing you've turned the boat in the right direction. The effort drops, flow appears. You start to notice you don't need to rush as much, prove as much, or explain as much. Decisions become clearer. No comes easier. Yes becomes more intentional. And little by little, you realize the year is responding differently than the ones before, not with fireworks, but with consistency. The most dangerous moment in this process is when things start to improve just a little. That's when many people relax too much, slip back into old patterns, and assume the inner work is done. But alignment isn't something you achieve once, it's something you maintain. The universe cooperates as long as you remain coherent. It tests again whenever it senses instability. That isn't cruelty, it's precision. Because what you can't sustain in the small, you won't sustain in the big. If you can't hold clarity when everything is quiet, you won't hold it when responsibility increases. If you can't maintain gratitude before receiving everything, you won't maintain it after receiving more. When you start 2026 understanding that the real work happens when no one is watching, you stop chasing spiritual shortcuts and start living principles. You realize prosperity isn't an event, it's a reflection. Peace isn't the absence of problems, it's an inner posture. Discipline isn't rigidity, it's commitment to the version of you that's still being built. And then, almost without noticing, you look back and see you're no longer the same person who started the year. Not because everything worked out, but because you didn't lose yourself in the process. Because you didn't abandon yourself in the silence. Because you held your decision even when doubt tried to negotiate with you. That's when the universe cooperates clearly, not with vague promises, but with concrete results. The right people show up, ideas connect, paths align, and most importantly, you're ready to sustain what arrives, because internally you've already become someone compatible with it. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment sharing what you're committed to sustaining in 2026. Like this video so more people can access this message, and subscribe to the channel to keep receiving content that doesn't feed illusions, but builds awareness. The universe responds to clarity, and it all starts with how you choose to begin.